everyone, my name is Gabby Olivas, as Monica said, and I'm currently a junior at Maricosta High School. And I'm here today to talk about something that's really important to me, which is social justice and human rights for all people. So about a year ago, my parents started a foundation which helps spread awareness for migrants at the US-Mexican border. And working with my parents exposed me to a lot of human suffering, a lot of stuff that I just couldn't unsee. And I think a lot of times as people, we try to ignore things that are happening around us so that we don't feel obligated to help those who are in need. And this isn't right, because as Catholics, or just as regular people, our faith and humanity call us to take action. So today I'm going to be presenting on the Syrian refugee crisis, which has been affecting millions of people all over the world. And so some of you may already know about the conflict in the Middle East, but what you may not realize is just how big this problem actually is. So it started with the Syrian civil war, which was caused by the Arab Spring. Now, the Arab Spring was a political movement that pushed for government reform in primarily Muslim countries. And this movement inspired many pro-democracy activists in Syria, including 15 schoolboys about our age who graffitied Arab Spring-inspired slogans. And as a result, the government arrested and tortured these 15 schoolboys and killed hundreds of protesters. Before this conflict in Syria, Syria was in political turmoil, but people still had jobs, people still had homes, and now over 80% of the population lives in poverty. 70% are without access to clean water, and over half of the population, which is 12 million people, are either internally displaced within Syria or have fled the country. There is an overwhelming number of Syrian refugees, and there aren't enough refugee camps to take them all in. As you can see by this graph, this red area here is the number of refugees coming from Syria alone, and that small blue portion is the number of refugee camps that are actually available. Now, assuming you're able to get into one of these camps as a refugee, living conditions are horrible. It's very, very crowded. There's limited medical resources, and there's oftentimes food shortages. But we do have some nonprofit organizations who are helping these brothers and sisters of ours have their basic human rights and needs met. UNICEF, for example, has been central to the relocation of refugees, and JRS, or Jesuit Refugee Services, has also been on ground at these sites, providing food and water and education, and just helping recognize the human dignity of every person in those camps. And that is really what we're called to do as people. Regardless if you're Catholic or not, we're meant to help others. We all have inherent value. We have inherent value as people because we're made in the image of God. We're perfect, and here's a statement from the US Catholic bishops. We call upon all people of goodwill, but Catholics especially, to welcome the newcomers in their neighborhoods and schools, in their places of work and worship, with heartfelt hospitality, openness, and eagerness both to help and learn from our brothers and sisters of whatever religion, ethnicity, or background. And this quote encourages us to to be hospitable to anyone in need, and no matter what they look like or where they're from. And while I'm focusing on it today, Syria isn't the only country with refugees. People come to the United States from all over the world, from the Middle East to south of the border, for a variety of reasons, which we can refer to as push and pull factors. Here's a list of some push factors for people leaving their homes. In a war-torn city, there's no jobs. There's no way to get money. There's hazards everywhere, lack of safety, police brutality, and airstrikes. There's no services, no good health care, no food services to provide for those in need. There's poverty because there's no jobs or education. Drought, there's no clean water. Like I said, 70% of Syrians are without access to clean water. War is rampant in these parts of Syria, and like I said, hazards and isolation, because no one's coming to help them. And the people that do, they can't find them because it's just so torn up by war. There's also pull factors, things that would make people want to come to the United States, things that we probably take for granted, but aren't there in Syria or other countries with war. So potential for employment, we have jobs, immigrants make up a large part of our workforce. We have a safe atmosphere. We're not at war right now. There's better service provisions, there's greater wealth, a better economy. We have supplies and political security. The people in Syria, the protesters who decided it wasn't right for the government to torture 15 schoolboys, they were killed in response by the government. And we have protests here in America. Can you imagine the government taking your life because you decided that, what they were doing was wrong? And a lot of refugees have friends and family in the United States anyways, people who are waiting for them or meeting them here. And also, in a land that's been ravaged by war, there's no farming land. There's no way to support agriculture when there's rubble everywhere. So we have that. We have clean land here because we don't have as much destruction. So now we're going to watch a video, and I just want you guys to hear some of the testimonies from these refugees. You'll get to hear what their life was like before and why they had to leave and what their life looks like now. So just take a listen. All right, well, I hoped you learned something from that video. And I just want to say that a lot of people like to label this as a choice, that refugees should just stay in their country. But it's important to realize that, as you saw for many of these refugees, they don't get the choice. They are forced to leave, and as you saw with the testimonies, you know what happens if they stay, and you know what they risk if they leave too. And so the Catechism of the Catholic Church states that we should value the lives and dignity of others as we would our own. And that is a really important quote to keep in mind when I show you these next couple of images, which might make you uncomfortable. But I want to challenge you guys to reflect on why you would leave if you were a refugee living in Syria. Why would you leave, and why would you go to the United States? And what do you have in your own life that would be desirable to a refugee who's coming here? So just take a minute and talk to someone next to you, and reflecting on the push and pull factors that I told you guys about earlier. Just try and think about the 3 most important factors into why you would leave your home, and also think about why you would, why others would want to come to America. So just take a minute.
So go ahead and talk to the same partner that you partnered with earlier today in class.
Okay, so I'm gonna call on some groups, and I would like you to please share what you guys came up with for specific reasons why you would leave Syria if you lived there. So let's do in the front row. Who was your partner? All right. 3 reasons. Okay.
There's unemployment.
All right.
You don't have a lot of money, like poverty.
Right, so those are actually the 3 biggest ones. I mean, unemployment leads to poverty, and of course, with a war going on, there's no jobs or education, so that's really important. So let's do you 2 boys right there.
You said the American dream as well. I know that it's good in the life.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point to bring up. The American dream is this idealized, idea that you come to America and you work your way up and you become super successful in this country. And while obviously that's not always true for some people, that really is a draw for immigrants who are coming from nothing to the United States, where there's, land of opportunities, and they have a chance to rebuild their life. So it's important that when we hear these stories of refugees and we look at photos, that we don't just see them as strangers or just images up on a screen. The duty of making oneself a neighbor to others and actively serving them becomes even more urgent when it involves the disadvantaged in whatever area this may be. As you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. And basically what this quote is saying is that it's our responsibility to find in every one of these refugees a reflection of ourselves. They aren't strangers, they are our brothers and sisters in Christ, and it's important when you look at them and you see them for people. Like one of the refugees said in the video, it's a lot different when you see it on screen versus when you're actually experiencing it. So I'm going to show you 2 photos, and I want you to take a minute and imagine and really believe that these 2 young boys are connected to you. Imagine that they are your younger brothers. So this is Omran Daknish, and he was separated from your family after your town was bombed during an airstrike. And on the right is Alan Kurdi, whose body washed up on shore after a boat carrying you and your family and other refugees fleeing war and death in your homeland sank en route to Greece. So just take a minute and look at these photos. Both of these boys are under the age of 5. This is what happens if you stay. Here's what you risk if you leave. Now, how can you see this and, then tell a refugee, well, you should have just stayed in your country? What other choice did they have but to leave? And assuming that they did survive the journey from their country to the United States, they're put in these refugee camps where tents make up homes. Education isn't guaranteed for children. Food and water are limited. And our brothers and sisters are not just trying to survive, but live lives full of meaning and value. So we're gonna watch another short video on life as a Syrian refugee actually in the camps. So I want to wrap up this presentation with this tweet from Pope Francis. And refugees who have had their lives destroyed and their loved ones taken from them come to America seeking a better life. And this quote really shows the humanity behind this crisis. And after I began learning about refugees and I heard their stories and I saw these photographs, I asked myself what I could do to change any of this. What could I possibly do to help? I don't have the money to donate as much as I'd want to affect change, and I don't have the time to go down to the border or go down to a refugee camp and volunteer because I need to focus on my own future. In fact, this is something that all of my siblings and I asked ourselves, how can we, the younger generation, help? What can we do? And I realized that our call, our role is to educate ourselves and to educate others. Our job is just to care and spread awareness so that others might care too. And when we reach the older generation, those who are financially able to donate their time and money, we can see that change and charity carried out through a ripple effect. So on June 14th, I'm going to be hosting a refugee simulation event, and I really need your help to make that happen. This event, if you were at all moved by what you learned, if you want to help educate people in an interactive way, or if you want to help fundraise for or spread awareness about those who are suffering, please let me know by signing your name in the back. And if you walk away today without signing up and you later decide that you do want to help, you can always email Monica, who's actually helping me make sure that this all happens in June. And Matthew, too, is also going to be hosting a life night for those of you who are interested, so that we can begin to prepare for this event. And I just want to let you guys know that your voices matter. Who we are as a young church matters. It would mean so much to have you guys there, either participating or helping with the simulation. And I just want to say thank you for listening to me today, and I hope that this inspires you to take action to help those in need. So thank you very much again.